Captain Wade Holloway had exactly one job that afternoon: keep civilians away from the flight line during a live demonstration of the most expensive aircraft his base had ever tested. So when he spotted a woman standing just past the fence line, arms crossed, staring up at the jet like she owned it, he didn't hesitate. "Ma'am, you need to step back. This isn't a tourist attraction." She didn't move. She just kept looking at the aircraft, studying the wing flaps like she was checking her own homework. "I designed that wing," she said quietly. "I think I'm allowed to look at it." He laughed. Not cruelly, just the reflexive laugh of a man who assumes she was joking. She wasn't. 10 minutes later, he'd find out exactly who she was and exactly how badly he'd misjudged the situation. And by the end of today's story, you'll understand why this is one of the most satisfying, wrong assumption moments we've ever covered on this channel. If you're the kind of person who loves watching quiet competence dismantle arrogance one sentence at a time, hit subscribe now, because this channel is full of stories exactly like this one, and we post a new one every week. Dr. Naomi Voss had spent 11 years of her life on one aircraft. She wasn't a pilot. She wasn't military. She was an aerospace engineer, the kind who spent more hours staring at stress simulations and wind tunnel data than she spent sleeping. She'd joined the program straight out of her doctorate, back when the jet on that runway was nothing but a folder of blueprints and a wildly ambitious set of performance targets nobody thought the team could hit. She hit them anyway. The aircraft in front of her now, sleek, matte gray, engines idling on the tarmac, carried her fingerprints in almost every system that mattered. The wing geometry that let it turn tighter than anything in its class. The internal weight distribution that gave it that unusual balance during high-speed maneuvers. Even the shape of the intake vents, which she'd redesigned herself after 2 years of failed prototypes. She rarely visited the base anymore. Most of her work happened in labs and simulation rooms hundreds of miles away. But today was different. Today was the aircraft's first public demonstration flight, the moment 11 years of her life would either prove itself in front of a crowd or fall apart on live television. She hadn't told anyone she was coming. She wanted to watch it the way an ordinary person would, standing at the fence with everyone else, without cameras, without introductions, without her badge hanging around her neck reminding people who she was. That decision was about to collide with a young captain who had absolutely no idea who he was talking to. Captain Wade Holloway wasn't a bad officer. He was, by most measures, a good one. Sharp, disciplined, respected by the airmen under him. But he had one flaw that had quietly followed him through his entire career. He made snap judgments about people based on almost nothing, and he was rarely willing to update them once he'd made them. Today, that flaw was about to cost him more than he expected. "Ma'am, I need you to step back behind the line," he said again, more firmly this time. "This aircraft is still in a restricted testing phase. We can't have civilians this close." "I understand the restriction," she said. "I helped write it." He blinked. "Excuse me?" "The clearance protocol for this aircraft. I helped write the safety radius requirements 2 years ago, back when we were still running ground tests." She finally turned to look at him. "I know exactly how close I'm allowed to stand, Captain, and I'm inside the line." He glanced down. She was, technically, standing exactly on the marked boundary, not over it, not under it. "Look, I don't know what you think you know about this program," he said, "but I've been briefed on every civilian contractor cleared for this demonstration, and I don't recognize you." "That's because I haven't badged in yet," she said simply. "I was enjoying watching it from out here first." He crossed his arms. "Ma'am, respectfully, I think you're confused about what this aircraft actually is." "I think," she said, a faint smile crossing her face, "you're confused about what I actually do." He was already reaching for his radio to call base security when a voice cut through the noise behind them. "Captain Holloway, stand down. She's cleared." It was the program's lead test pilot, jogging toward them, badge in hand, practically breathless. "Dr. Voss," he said, "we didn't know you were coming today. We would have rolled out the red carpet." Wade felt his stomach drop. "Dr. Voss?" he repeated. "Naomi Voss," she said, extending a hand. "Lead design engineer on this airframe. I designed the wing you almost pulled me away from looking at." If you love the exact moment someone realizes they've made a colossal mistake, you're going to enjoy the next part of this story even more. But first, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because this channel is packed with stories just like this one. For a long moment, Wade Holloway didn't say anything at all. He looked at the woman he'd just accused of not understanding what this aircraft actually is. The same woman who had spent over a decade designing every critical system that made it fly. "Dr. Voss, I had no idea," he said. "I'm sorry, I was just following protocol. I didn't recognize you." "You don't need to apologize for following protocol," she said calmly. "You needed to apologize for assuming I didn't understand it better than you do." The test pilot, sensing the tension, quietly excused himself to prep for the flight, leaving the two of them standing at the fence line. "I get mistaken for a spectator more than you'd think," she continued. "Middle-aged woman standing near a fighter jet, no uniform, no visible badge. Most people assume I wandered in from the parking lot. I've stopped being offended by that assumption a long time ago. Then why does this feel like I just failed some kind of test?" She actually laughed at that. "Because you did, Captain, just not the one you think." She nodded toward the jet. "You didn't fail because you enforced the boundary. You failed because the moment I gave you information that contradicted your assumption, that I helped write the safety protocol, you didn't pause to consider it. You just decided I was wrong and moved straight to calling security." He was quiet for a moment, absorbing that. "That's a fair point." "It's more than fair, Captain. It's the difference between a good officer and a great one. Good officers follow the rules. Great ones know when to stop and actually listen to the person standing in front of them." The demonstration flight itself was flawless. The aircraft climbed faster than anything else on the runway that day, banked into a turn so tight it drew an audible gasp from the crowd, and landed with a precision that made even the most experienced pilots on base nod in quiet approval. Every system Naomi Voss had spent 11 years perfecting performed exactly the way she'd designed it to. Wade watched the entire flight standing next to her, saying almost nothing, occasionally glancing sideways like he still couldn't quite believe who he was standing next to. After it landed, he found her near the hangar entrance, waiting for the debrief to begin. "Dr. Voss, can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "How many times has this happened to you? Someone assuming you're in the wrong place, not qualified to be here?" She thought about it seriously before answering. "Enough times that I could write a book about it. Enough times that I almost quit this field twice in my 20s. She looked at the jet, now surrounded by ground crew running post-flight checks. "But not enough times that I let it stop me from building something like that." "That's a better answer than I deserve after today." "Probably," she said, a small smile returning. "But I'll tell you what I told the last officer who made this exact mistake 3 years ago, at a different base, with a different jet." "What's that?" "The people you assume don't belong in the room are usually the ones who built it." Word of the exchange spread through the base faster than any official announcement could have. Not because anyone was trying to embarrass Captain Holloway, but because the story was simply too good not to repeat. To his credit, Wade didn't try to bury it or explain it away. When his commanding officer asked him about it directly, he told the story exactly as it happened, including the parts that made him look foolish. "Best mistake I've made in this uniform," he admitted. "I needed it." Something changed in him after that day. He started asking more questions before making assumptions about the civilians, contractors, and visitors who moved through the base. When a soft-spoken young woman showed up 8 months later, claiming to be part of the software team troubleshooting an avionics glitch, he didn't wave her off. He asked her name, her role, and let her get to work. She fixed the glitch in 20 minutes, a problem that had stumped 3 senior engineers for 2 days. Dr. Voss returned to the base twice more over the following year, both times for testing milestones on aircraft she'd helped design. Both times, Wade made a point of personally welcoming her at the gate, not because he had to, but because he'd learned exactly what it cost him the first time he hadn't. The aircraft she designed that day went on to become one of the most successful airframes the program had ever produced. But if you ask people on that base what they remember most about its first demonstration flight, more of them will tell you about the woman at the fence line than the flight itself. That's usually how it goes with people who quietly build the things everyone else just gets to admire. Here's a question for you. If you were in Wade's position and a stranger told you they designed the exact system you were guarding, would you have paused to ask more questions, or would you have made the same assumption he did? Tell me in the comments what you think you would have done, and be honest, I want to hear the real answer, not the flattering one. If this story landed for you the way it landed for me while I wrote it, do me a favor and hit subscribe, because we post a brand new story just like this one every single week. Stories about the quiet people who turn out to be the most important person in the room. Tap the bell too so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching all the way through. I'll see you in the next story.